I want you guys to give it up for Becky Wilson as she comes and speaks to us tonight. Yep, come on, come on, come on. Give it up for her. She's got long ways to walk. Amen.
Thank you. Does it matter? Oh, I got to stand up here? Oh, I thought I might sing. Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name's Becky, and I'm a grateful recovering addict. So I was given this list of how it was going to go, and they were like, you do this, this, and this, and then it's your turn. And boy, that went quick. So thanks for having me today. I had never spoken here before. If I choke, then please send all your emails to Matt Hall. So I guess a good place to start would be at the beginning of telling my story, and then sometimes I get real long-winded and just really get into detail about stuff, but my hope is that I'll get to the hope of it and can talk more about that this time than all the details and necessaries. But yeah, so I am recovering from substance abuse. I'm an alcoholic and addict, among other things. If we really dug deep down into it, I'm sure there's a list of 10 or 12 more things that we could add on to the back of that. So I was born, well, let me tell you this. My sobriety recovery clean day is May 27th, 2005. So, yeah, it really is amazing because I'm a person that I could never quite get through a whole weekend. You know what I mean? I was like, well, just after this weekend, I won't do it anymore. I'll only do it on Fridays, or I'll only do it if it's free, and all this kind of stuff. So however many days that adds up to is truly a miracle for somebody like me, for sure. So anyways, I was born April 26, in Morristown, Tennessee. I was adopted early, super early, at 8 months old, into a family. My biological mother was super young and wasn't ready and stuff, so a whole bunch of stuff happened, and a bunch of things fell into place for a couple that couldn't have children, and that's where I ended up, and that's my parents. That's the only parents I know. And I'm super, that has been a weird thing throughout my life, but today at this time, at this point in my life, I'm truly grateful for exactly how everything happened. Weird, untraditional, all the rest. So anyways, my parents, I grew up in Morristown. I went to an Episcopal school until I was 8 years old. My dad was a politician, and my mom was, she did several different things. She was always the director of something, my nursing home, all kinds of different things. But when I was around 8 years old, my parents decided that they were going to get a divorce. And let me back up and say, I have my parents, but when I think about being raised, I have a family, and to me, it's funny because I was talking with my aunt on Facebook, and she was talking about, I was just kidding around. I said, she was talking about cleaning her daughter's house, and I said, you could come clean my house. She said, well, I charge if it's not just my immediate family. And I thought, immediate family to me is a little bit different. And then I started thinking about what that really was to me. Not that I think she should clean my house. I'm not saying that. But I was thinking about my grandparents. I think, when I think about who raised me, I think just as much about my grandparents, my grandmothers, as I do, as much as my parents. And that's a really, really beautiful thing. The people that my whole family, are good people. They're integrous. They're good to people. They're active in their community. They're great. They go to church. They this, that, and the other. They're just all around good people. Both families, my grandparents are farmers, and in my opinion, that makes some of the very best people. But anyways, so I moved here. My mother's from here, and I moved back here when I was 8 and started going to the 3rd grade in public school, which was a lot different. Most people weren't paid to tolerate me. I was different than other kids. I was different than other kids. I was mischievous. I was a tomboy. I was manipulative. I was also awesome. I'm not. You know what I mean? You can't take an 8-year-old and pick them to death. But I can see now where I was not your run-of-the-mill kid. And then when I moved here, everything had changed. I went from having both parents and going to the school with everybody that I'd known since babies and church and all this kind of stuff to a public school where I didn't know anybody, and half my one of my parents wasn't here, and a whole different town, and this, that, and the other, and my behavioral problems started to really come into place soon thereafter. Just kind of mean. I think I was resentful and hateful, and I've heard, and since I've been in recovery, that hurt people, and so I can definitely remember. I can definitely look back and see where that started. It happened before the move, but I mean, it really kind of got serious then. I was diagnosed with ADD, and I can see that too. I was always in trouble, always in trouble. And my grades got bad when I moved here too. All the whatever factored into that. But I was thinking, that and then we went on, and I went on into middle school, and it got worse. It got worse. And I remember, my dad was an amputee. He only had one arm, and he walked with a limp with a cane. And I remember being tiny and feeling like I had to be a tough guy, because I remember when we'd walk down the street and kids would look at him and stare. And when, even grown-ups, my dad, he'll tell you now, he's like, I don't care if kids stare. There's nothing wrong with kids staring, but when the grown-ups do it, that's rude. So I remember that I practiced, and first of all, it would give me terrible anxiety when I saw somebody doing it. But second of all, I remember learning the look to give people, to intimidate them. I didn't want him to know, that I was bullying them, but I wanted them to feel it off of me. If they were staring at my dad, I wanted to be able to look at them and then know they better look somewhere else. And that was a character defect, defense mechanism, whatever you want to call it, that I built even more over time. I got in a lot of trouble with that also. I remember being in high school, and I always root for the underdog, no matter what. With my whole heart, very passionate about it. And I remember I can look back and now and say I was a bully, but I was a bully mostly to bullies, and I don't know, but it definitely made some waves for me. In high school, I started experimenting with drinking, and then started into drugs and stuff. And, I was a promiscuous teenager, and it didn't make high school very good. I went through some real traumas in high school that kind of built me even into more of a broken person. So once I graduated, which I don't know exactly how that happened. I don't know how I got a diploma, but I did. And soon after, and I'll also say, I'm probably the only person in my family, well, there aren't many at all, if any, but that didn't go on to further education and this, that, and the other. I didn't have any desire to. I didn't want to do anything with my life except be left alone and do what I want to do. And I remember I was 18 when I graduated, I started going to bars. But I didn't really drink, that much, not often. I was usually people's designated driver, and I got hooked up with a lot older people. I was 18, 19. Most of my friends were 40, 50, and I got in some pretty rough crowds that way. But then I found my DOC and started doing that, and that just kind of made a whole new. It just kind of a trap door in my bottom, And I met this guy that was terrible news. And long painful story short, I ended up getting pregnant, and I was 19 years old, and I had my son by the time I was 20. That relationship, if you want to call it that, was something that, and I had plenty part in it, don't get me wrong, but it damaged me so deeply. I can still feel effects of it today. And that's kind of my pattern. He was a whole lot older than I was, and that was kind of my pattern too. I think it's because, a lot of people say it's because of dad issues. Once I moved here, when I was 8, my dad got remarried when he was 11, and we didn't have that strong of a relationship then on after that. We try today. We care a whole lot today. There's no ill feelings today. I can say that, but it's kind of sad, but it is where it is and what it is, and I just kind of have to accept it at that and just love him where he is and to the best of his ability. He's loving me to the best of his ability. I believe that. So anyways, on my drug of choice, I went really far down, and it ended me in places that I didn't think. I'd really forgotten, between the bars and the drugs, after a couple of years, I forgot what normal was. Not that I ever was normal, but I know what it looked like for other people. But I kind of forgot what a normal person would behave like. I missed growing up. I missed some years of growing up, just wasting time, and kind of missed the transition between middle school and, okay, it's time to be a grown-up. So I moved back in with my mom and had my son, and then I wanted to be a good mom. That was my goal at 19. It's funny, I was talking to my son the other day, and he's 20 years old, and I was talking to him, and I said, do you realize when I was your age that I had you, that I had a son? And looking at him, he's in Pellissippi right now, and that's just so scary, But he was my, I took him everywhere with me. I took him to get drugs. I took him drinking everywhere I went except for where he wasn't allowed, And I thought that was like good. I thought it was bonding. I thought I was taking care of my child. It's amazing how we can justify stuff, while we're in it, and everything seems okay, and everything's somebody else's fault. And if everything else was just more like this, and this, then everything would have fallen into place for me, and it wouldn't be this way. But at the end, when I get into recovery, I learned that my biggest problem's me. Amen. So. Anyways, so I have this little boy. I'm doing all wild things, and I had run off. I'll tell you, I'd stolen a lady's car, and I didn't get back with it for a few days. And so I pulled into a parking lot, and I was running home because somebody was after me, asking me questions. And so I was like, I'm just going to slip out the back door and get home. So I'm at the church I grew up in, actually, at New Providence. And I'm sitting there kind of hiding in their playground. There was a little playhouse. And I look over, and everybody's going into my grandmother's funeral. She had died while I was gone. And I was just sitting there. I was like, what's my whole family? I was like, there's my family from Morristown. What's going on? And then I realized, and so I ran all the way home, which was a couple miles. And that was a day I'll never, ever forget. I think about that every time I think about getting clean. And it's not the last day I used by far, but it is the point where everybody's like, you know what, this can't go on anymore. This cannot go on any longer. And that was intervention day. And so my family, my dad, my aunt, I think my mom was there, I can't remember, but I remember them coming to me and saying, we know you have a problem. We know everything you're doing. You need to tell us exactly what's going on and let us know what it is that you want to do. Well, I had seen shows and movies and this and that, and I knew what you were supposed to say. You were supposed to say, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. That's what you're supposed to say. So I said that, and they were like, great. And they said, well, talk to us about what all's been going on. They knew I'd been whatever. And I said, and so I told them all the stuff, and they just stood there with their mouths held open. They did not know what I'd been doing. It was 100 times worse than they thought, and I really blew their minds right then. So anyways, that got me into treatment for the first time. I went into treatment, stayed for the whole time. While I was there, they took custody or temporary custody of my son. And that was a hard blow, because in my mind and in my heart, that said to me, you've gotten clean, now there's huge consequences. And it didn't, it gave me it gave me many resentments, and it got me bitter, and it made me not trust, and it, all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying it should have happened any different. I'm just telling you my interpretation of it then. So anyways, moving on, I got out of treatment, tried to, went back and forth, this and that, wasn't ready. I started going to jail a lot in Hamblin County because they had taken my son there. So, I'm trying to hurry so I can get to the hope part, but I'm too wordy. It's just me. So anyways, I have some consequences, go to treatment again. And all these times I'm learning stuff. I'm gathering information. I'm growing, but I'm just not at the level of surrender. And surrender is where I had to get complete surrender to drugs and alcohol, surrender to myself, surrender to a higher power, surrender to I don't know what's best for me, every level of surrender, and mostly surrender of my pride and ego. I don't have to look like I can't handle it, so anyways, that was kind of the point that really got me clean. I finally did 8 months in a halfway house and started getting a relationship back with my son. There's a whole lot that went on in between then. I wasn't even allowed to see him. But I started establishing a relationship back with him, and it kind of grew from there. I got 11 months clean and used one more time. I call it my reservation canceler. It was the day that showed me what exactly it was that I didn't want. It canceled every reservation of, I wish I could, I'm not allowed to. Some people can, but I can't. Maybe on special occasions, all these things. That was the day, my relapse, my last use was the day that canceled all those reservations for me and changed my whole perspective from I'm not allowed to thank God I don't have to. Because I felt like I was getting ripped off and I wasn't going to be able to get high and do these things. But the truth is I was a slave and I didn't have a choice anyways, So that was the last time I used. And I just picked up 16 years clean last May. So, but it wasn't a one-stop shop. I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of things right. I've done a lot of things wrong. One of the thing that I've done is first of all, service work. and I should do more. We should all probably do more, but I found out, through working the 12 steps, that the whole point of this 12-step process is to make me, for my disease that is focused on self, my self-centeredness and self-centered fear, if I start being of service to others, if that's my go-to, then my disease has nothing to feed on, and that's the point. If you read through the whole steps, they get you there with the last one. That's the point. They're trying to transform you into being of service to other people, and then it's not even about me at all anyways. It was all a trick. So I was thinking, I was emailing with Chris about, he said, if there's any scripture that you want up on the screen or anything. And I was like, you know what? I was thinking about scripture about forgiveness. And so I was reading and I was looking and I was like, of course, it sounds elementary, but I was reading all these different scriptures and stuff pertaining to forgiveness. First of all, my forgiveness of myself, mostly, primarily. My forgiveness, on my fourth step, forgiving other people. My eighth step, people forgiving me, other people forgiving me. And I was like, my gosh, this whole book's about forgiveness, So, and I wanted to touch on that, about forgiveness and all the aspects of it. But then I was like, you know what? I don't think I want a scripture up there. I think I want to share this poem that I was in jail one time, and I was laying there in the Hamlin County Jail, which is the grossest place in the universe. I truly believe that probably is true. I was laying there, and I was like, and I grew up, I was thinking about this today too. I grew up with God. I grew up in church and with a knowledge of church. But they taught me to believe in God, like the belief of God. But I didn't learn a relationship with God. And I was thinking, this whole process is what gave me faith, And I was laying on that mat in jail. And I prayed for the first time because that's the difference, a belief of and a belief in and a relationship with. Those are the differences between a Santa Claus and, something that leads me through the world. It's a whole different ball game. That took it out more. That took it out of the context of a mythical creature to me into, like a living God. And I was on that mat and I prayed for like the first time. I knew the prayers that they'd taught me, the ones in church and Sunday school and all this, but I prayed for the first time, and I'll never forget. I said, God, either change me and do something with me, or please just kill me. I just really, and I was laying there thinking, what happened to me? I'm in here looking like this and acting like this, and my baby's with somebody else. And I was raised completely different. And so I prayed that, God, either do something with me or kill me, please. And the next day, my whole court order got changed to go to treatment, and that was not part of the deal when I went to court. I was in there like 3 or 4, I don't know how long I was there that time, but I know that wasn't part of the deal, and it got me uncomfortable because I was like, oh, something's watching. I've really got to do right now. So, but anyway, I got to this treatment center they sent me to, and I learned a lot there. But this poem, I've remembered, all these years. And that was 18 years ago probably. And it's super simple. Some of you may have heard it, but I always come back to this. And every time I write somebody in jail or something, I try to put this in there so that they can look at it too, and maybe it'll help somebody else as much as it does me. But I said the title is Faith. When you've come to the edge of all life that you know and are about to drop off into the darkness of the unknown, faith is knowing one of two things will happen. There will be something solid to stand on, or you'll be taught to fly. So that really, because I was at that place. I was like, I'm going to jump off into something I don't know anything about. This is not what I'm comfortable with. This is not what I'm accustomed to. I don't know if I can do this. Am I capable? Am I competent? And, there was nothing else to do. There was nothing else to do except take a leap of faith and see what happened, you know? And for somebody that couldn't put 3 days together, you know, I've made it a while, you know? And I have a lot to show for it, you know, in my relationships, in my relationship with myself, in my relationship with my family, my children, my higher power. I'm married today. You know, I have another daughter. You know, she's 9 now. She's never seen me under the influence or even probably heard many stories. It's been so long, you know. I'm going to say one of the last things I want to say is, you know, for the people recovering that, you know, your kids, you're like, oh, I've been a screw up their whole life. Well, I was a screw up my son's entire life. But now I've been clean and sober and in recovery so long that was just a drop in the bucket of his life, you know. I used for his first 3 years. And now he's 20. So, you know, and we do recover, and so do our kids. For sure, I've seen it a million times. Anyways, I just want to say that every blessing I have is because of my recovery. You know, I had nothing. I had negative nothing. I try to help people however I can, whenever I can. And not because I'm so great, but because that fills me up, you know. It may be sort of a selfish trade-off at times. But even on the days that it is selfish, you know, I can say that because of recovery, I'm decent. I'm good. If I'm not good that day, at least I'm decent, you know. And sometimes I'm pretty awesome, you know. So I could talk about this stuff for all night. The people that know me are like, oh, she's just getting wound up. But I just have a small time. What time did you say, Matt? Where is he? 7:20. Okay, well, there we go. Thank you so much, Staff, for having me.